Hello everyone. Today's topic is DNA and RNA as genetic material. Myself, Dr. Madhuri, Assistant Professor of Microbiology from Government Degree College for Women, Begumpet. My presentation is having the following contents. First, we'll be dealing with the introduction. Next, functions of genetic material. Next, genetic material. What is genetic material? It is protein or DNA. And then experiments to prove uh, that DNA is a genetic material, in which we have to deal with the Griffiths experiment, every McLeod and McCarthy experiment, Hershey and Chase experiment, and then we'll be dealing with the experiments that are proving RNA is genetic material, and then we'll go with the summary. So in this entire session, we'll see what are the experiments which are proving that DNA or RNA is the genetic material. Coming to introduction part. Now, why we have to study about genetic material? Because genetic material is the basis for transmission of traits. Okay, transmission of traits or characters. Uh, Here it means that offsprings look similar to parents. If we see many of the children, they'll look similar to their parents. It is due to transmission of some message from parents to offsprings, or some genetic material from parents to offsprings, right? So in order to prove that there is something transmitting from one generation to another, Mendel has experimented using pea plants in 1868, and he called this transmitting factor as a factor or a gene. Whatever material which is getting transferred from one generation to another generation, he called it as a gene or a factor. And then what are genes? Genes are nothing but they are sequences present on the chromosomes. Next, let us deal with the functions of genetic material. As we have discussed, genetic material, here we are proving whether DNA or RNA is a genetic material. Now, I won't mention either DNA or RNA. Let us mention it as a genetic material only. So, what this genetic material has to do? It has to first undergo replication. Replication is nothing but forming of a replica or a copy of its own, so that a copy can be transferred from one generation to another generation. Next, it is used for the storage of information or for expression. Okay, so some information has to be stored in this genetic material, otherwise the characters cannot be transferred from one generation to another generation. Controlled expression of traits. Okay, if we see the offsprings also, they won't be completely similar to single parent. They'll have mixed characters of both the parents. And not only the physical appearance of the offsprings, there are many things which have to be controlled by the genetic material. Next, change in controlled way. These biochemical pathways, everything is under the control of genetic material, and it must be stable also. Genetic material must be stable. Okay, well, here stability means in terms of the sequence which is present on the DNA or RNA. It must not undergo mutations. Okay, if there are any mutations, there will be change in the sequence, and the same change will be transferred to next generations. So it must be stable. Next, genetic material, protein or DNA. So till 1944, scientists were not clear whether DNA is the genetic material or protein is the genetic material. So uh, till this period, they have considered proteins as a genetic material because these proteins they are made of 20 different amino acids, and whereas DNA is made of only 4 different deoxyribonucleotides. So as proteins have much variation, or as 20 different amino acids are helping in the formation of proteins, and there is much variation in proteins, so scientists have thought maybe proteins are acting as a genetic material, right? Next, most people accepted proteins as a genetic material, so they were sure that proteins are actual genetic materials. Now, then some experiments were conducted to what is the genetic material. So these experiments are bacterial transformation, recombination, bacteriophage infection, and transduction. Let us see one by one experiments, one by one. Now, first one is bacterial transformation. Transformation here in this experiment, the way scientists who worked on this experiment is Frederick Griffith in the year 1928. And later, these experiments, whatever done by Griffith, were continued by Oswald Avery, McLeod, and McCarthy in 1944. Now, first we will deal with the Griffith's experiment, what he has done. He has taken Diplococcus pneumoniae for his experiments. Okay, this is also called as pneumococcus bacteria. This pneumococcus bacteria, he observed that it exists as two strains. There are two strains for this bacteria. Strain means it is a variety. After species, even there, after species, if there is a variation, within the species, if there is any variation, we can call them as a strains. Okay. So Diplococcus is the genus and pneumonia is the species. So after this, there are some variation in this bacteria. That is why we are calling it as a strain. Now, so they've named these strains as S3 strain and R2 strain. S and R, right? S3 strain, it is a virulent, and it possessed a lipopolysaccharide membrane and could kill mice by pneumonia and made glistening colonies on plate. So here S strain is, first point is virulent. Virulent means it is able to cause the disease in the mice. And if you go for the morphology of the bacteria, this strain is having lipopolysaccharide membrane around the cell, and if we inject this bacteria into the mice, it can cause the disease and can kill the disease by causing the pneumonia. And when we grow this strain on the plate, it is giving glistening colonies or shining colonies. This glistening is due to presence of lipopolysaccharide membrane. This is the description for first strain, that is S3 strain or S strain. And the second strain is R2 strain. Here R2 strain is avirulent. It is quite opposite to S strain, that is where S strain is virulent but R strain is avirulent. Avirulent means it is not able to cause any disease in the mice, and it is lacking lipopolysaccharide. Again, S strain is having lipopolysaccharide but R strain is not having lipopolysaccharide. And when we grow these cells on media, it is giving rough colonies. Rough colonies are due to lack of lipopolysaccharide membrane. Next, strains used by Frederick Griffith in his experiments. These are the strains, and this is the colony morphology. R strain is giving rough colony morphology. S strain is giving smooth colony morphology. Here, capsule is absent in R strain, capsule is present in S strain, and virulence, R strain is avirulent, S strain is virulent. This is the overall view of both the strains which were used by Griffith for his experiment of transformation. Now, we have to deal with the steps in experiment. First one is There are 4 steps here. Okay, so in the first step, they have injected S strain into the mice. This is the mice. This is the S strain which is having lipopolysaccharide membrane. When it is injected, this strain or the bacteria has caused pneumococcus pneumonia disease in this mice, and it has killed the mice. So the mice was died. Now, in the second step, they have injected, the strain is living here. Again, in the second step, they have injected live non-virulent strain of Streptococcus pneumonia. Okay, here they have injected R strain. Non-virulent means R strain they have injected. Here for the R strain there is no lipopolysaccharide. They have injected it. As we have discussed, it is a virulent strain. A virulent means it is not able to cause any disease in the mice. That is why mice has survived. Next, in the third step, they have injected heat-killed virulent strain of Streptococcus pneumonia. Means they have taken the virulent strain, that is from the first step, whatever they have injected, the same strain here also they have taken virulent strain, but here the difference is they have used heat-killed strain. Heat-killed virulent strain means they have killed the cells of S type. They have killed this S type cells and they have injected it into the mice. Okay, so as the cells are killed, they are not able to cause any disease in this mice. Thus mice has survived. And then fourth step, if we see, they have injected this heat killed S strain and living R strain. One cell is killed one and one cell is living one. Okay, so killed one is virulent strain and living is a virulent strain, and when they have injected the mixture of these two cells, the mice was killed. Actually, as per expectation or as per calculation, the mice should have survived these cells, but the mice got killed. So what is the reason between the beside behind the death of this mice? So here the same thing, uh, smooth strains, smooth strain is injected, rough strain is injected, heat killed S strain is injected, and then mixture of heat killed S strain and living R cells is injected, right? Now, so first step, when S strain is injected, mouse died. R strain is injected, mouse survived. When heat killed S strain is injected, mouse survived, and when mixture is injected, mouse died. Okay, and from its blood, live S strain was recovered. Okay, this is the important point here. When we have injected heat killed S strain, and living R strain, they could recover living S strain. That is why the mice was killed. So how this living R strain was transformed into living S strain was a question. When they have not injected living S strain, how they could recover living S strain from the bacteria? That was a big question. Next, they have done some more. They have extended this experiment, and then what they have did is they have injected the mice with the heat killed S strain, living R strain plus DNase enzyme. DNase enzyme means, what is DNase enzyme? DNase enzyme is the enzyme which can degrade the DNA, which can degrade the DNA. Okay. So what happened? The result is mouse survived. Now let us check here what is happening, right? We have injected heat killed S strain, same from the previous step. We have used living R strain, same from the previous step, right? There mice was died, but when we have added DNase enzyme here, mouse was survived. Means there is DNA molecule in the medium which is getting transferring from living killed S strain to living R cell, right? So during this process, the DNase enzyme as maybe cleave the DNA. That is why the transforming principle was damaged and the mouse has got survived. And then, as the confusion was between DNA and protein, they have added protease enzyme to this mixture. In the place of DNase enzyme, they have replaced DNase enzyme with a protease enzyme, and they could see that mouse was died. As in the step four, the mouse was died due to pneumonia because protease enzyme cannot damage the transforming principle here. As the transforming principle was DNA, protease enzyme could not damage the DNA, so the DNA could transfer successfully from heat killed S strain to living R strain, and thus the R strain was transformed to S strain, and then S strain has caused pneumonia in the mice, and the mouse died. So this was the background, or this was the step by step process of Griffith's experiment. So, what is the conclusion? Based on the step 4, Griffith concluded that there was a transformation of a virulent R2 type to virulent S3 type by picking up the genetic material encoding the lipopolysaccharide capsule from the heat killed S3. Okay, so here from the step 4, he concluded that this R strain is transformed to S strain, and they have gained the capacity to uh, form or synthesize lipopolysaccharide membrane, and thus it has transformed into virulent strain. So this transformation, bacterial transformation, clearly shows the role of DNA as a genetic material and is further confirmed by results of step 5 and step 6. Okay, so here let us see step 5 and step 6. These two steps are confirming that DNA is the genetic material and not protein. Next, Avery, McLeod, and McCarthy. As we have discussed earlier, the experiment done by Griffith were extended by these three scientists, Avery, McLeod, and McCarthy. So these experiments are also based on transformation. So these scientists, they have taken cell-free extract of S3 strain bacterium, was subjected to DNase, RNase, and protease. Each treated extract was mixed with R2 and mixture injected into the mouse to see the transformation. As in the previous slide we have seen, the here the whatever media was there, it was treated with wherever the transformation was taking place, that medium selfie extract, they have removed the cells, and then after a particular time they have removed the cells, and that remaining solution is treated with these three enzymes in a sequence. Okay, so first they have treated with DNAs, then they have treated with RNAs, and then they have treated with protease. Okay, so in the three cases what they have seen is, and then after treating with these enzymes, they have injected the extract into the mouse, and they have checked for the results. So in case of protease and RNase, transformation was recorded. In case of DNase, no transformation was seen. Okay, so here in case of RNase and protease, right, RNA can cleave RNase can cleave RNA, protease can cleave protein, right. So will this might have cleaved the RNA, this might have cleaved the protein, but as the transforming principle was DNA, right, it was not damaged, and hence the mouse was died and the transformation was recorded in this case of protease and RNase. Whereas in DNA's case, as the transforming principle was DNA itself, this DNase could cleave the DNA, could break the DNA into pieces. Thus, as the transforming principle was damaged, there was no transformation seen in this case. So, evidence from genetic recombination in bacteria or bacterial conjugation. Now, first experiment we have seen, this is the second experiment. Uh, here, The experiment is conjugation. Okay, till now what we have seen, that was transformation. What is transformation? Transformation is the uptake of DNA from the surroundings, and incorporation into its genetic material. Change of genetic material by taking up the DNA from the surroundings. Next, second experiment is bacterial conjugation. Here, the scientists worked on this experiment are Liederberg and Tatum. They have done this experiment in 1946. Here, they have seen that genetic recombination in E. coli by conjugation. Okay, earlier experiment, Diplococcus pneumonia was used. In conjugation. The scientists Lederberg and Tatum, they have used the bacterium E. coli. Okay, and then they have done conjugation experiment here, right? So in this experiment, what they have done is E. coli, they have grown on minimal media, right? First, you have to understand what is minimal media. Minimal media is the basic media which do not have any particular special nutrients in it. Okay, it won't have any um, nutrients in it, special minerals or vitamins or sugars are not added to that media, right? So they have taken minimal media for growing of E. coli, right? And then they have taken mutant strain A, right? Here they have taken two mutants of E. coli. One mutant is strain A and the other mutant is strain B. Right. So first mutant is methionine minus biotin minus, threonine plus, leucine plus, and thymine plus. What does it mean by plus or minus here? Okay, as we are saying, it is a mutant, right? Mutant means they, they have subjected this E. coli bacteria to some mutation, right? So by mutation, what is mutation? Mutation is the change in the DNA sequence, right? So by this mutation, what is the change in this bacteria in this E. coli is it has become methionine minus. Methionine minus means it is not able to synthesize the amino acid called as methionine, and it is not able to synthesize biotin. Then threonine plus is it can synthesize threonine, it can synthesize leucine, and it can synthesize thymine. Name coming to the strain B. Strain B is methionine plus, biotin plus, threonine minus, leucine minus, and thymine minus. Here, as strain A was negative for these two compounds, strain B is positive for these two compounds, and strain A was positive for these three compounds, and strain B is negative for these three compounds. So they are contradictory to each other. Where strain A is able to produce last three compounds, strain B is able to produce first two compounds. So when there is two mutants, when they are grown separately, they cannot grow in minimal media. Okay, so as we have seen, minimal media does not support the growth of the or does not provide any special nutrients. So in order to grow in on the minimal media, the bacteria has to produce all the compounds by its own, right? So we have got two mutants, strain A and strain B. Now when they are grown separately, there is no growth on the minimal medium. What does it mean? When they are grown separately, there is no growth on the minimal medium, because for its growth, it requires all the five compounds, right? Methionine, biotin, threonine, leucine, and thymine all are required by each strain, right? But due to mutation, strain A was able to produce only three compounds, and strain B was able to produce only two compounds. That two different compounds, right? So when they are grown separately, as they could not meet the requirements for the cell growth, or as they could not synthesize all the compounds required for the cell growth, they are not able to show any growth on the minimal media. But when they grown together, number of colonies were found. Okay, now in another experiment, what they have done is they have inoculated both the strains, that is strain A and strain B, onto the same media, same minimal media in the same plate or same agar, same broth, right? So what is same plate? Sorry. So they could observe the growth in the form of colonies on the plate. So what was the change here from this case to this case, right? Here they have grown separately and here they were grown together. Okay. When they grown separately, they could not have access to the compounds produced by the other strain. But here, when they are grown together, one strain could access the compounds produced by another strain, and strain B could access the nutrients produced by strain A, right? So altogether they could get all the nutrients required for the cell growth, and they could grow on the um, minimal media and showing the colonies. This was the evidence from conjugation, and the next evidence is from bacteriophage infection. So first we have to understand what is bacteriophage. Okay, bacteriophage is a virus which infects the bacteria, right? It is a virus which can infect the bacteria. It is having the ability to infect the bacteria. That is why it is called as bacteriophage infection. Now let us see how a bacteriophage infects the bacterial cell. Example of bacteriophage is T2 phage. Phage is basically called as a virus and its name is T2. Okay, so let us see the life cycle of T2 phage. This diagram or this slide shows the life cycle of the T2 phage. Okay, so how this is happening? First, the viral particle or phage particle is attaching to the bacterial cell. It is attaching to the bacterial cell through tail fibers. Okay, this is the head of the virus and this is the tail. Okay, this is the protein coat, and in this virus structure, if you see, outer in the head part, the outer membrane or outer layer is protein coat, and inner inside to the protein coat there will be DNA, which is called as phage DNA. Inside phage DNA is there, and outside protein coat is there, and at the base tail fibers are there. So first this phage particle will attach to the bacterial cell through tail fibers, and then after attachment it will inject the genetic material into the bacterium. So here as we are trying to know whether DNA is the genetic material or RNA is the genetic material, right? We have to check what is injected into the bacterial cell. Okay, so here after injection into the bacterial cell, after injection of genetic material into the bacterial cell, phage reproduction will start. Okay, so the phage will multiply, and phage will multiply and it will be released by breaking of the or by lysis of the bacterial cell. Again repeating the entire cycle. First, the phage will attach to the bacterial cell through tail fibers. Then, after attachment, the genetic material which is present in the head region will be released into the bacterial cell. Then, that genetic material of virus will take control of the bacterial cell, and it will direct the bacterial cell to synthesize viral particles, and then these viral particles will be released out by lysis of the bacterial cell. This is the life cycle of T2 bacteriophage. So here we can see that two components are there. One is the genetic material which is present inside the virus, and the second one is protein code. So here one is the genetic material which is present inside the protein coat, and the other one is the protein coat itself, right? So scientists have labeled E. coli, okay, that is phage added to E. coli in a radioactive medium. They have taken two radioactive mediums. In the medium they have added a radioactive material. In this one they have added P32. It is phosphorus, labeled phosphorus, and here they have added sulfur, S35, that is radioactive sulfur, right? So here you have to understand one thing: phosphorus is present in DNA. If there is, if as we had the question that the genetic material is DNA or protein, now DNA consists of phosphorus, protein consists of sulfur, right? Sulfur amino acids will be there, no? So they'll be present in the protein. So phosphorus is present in DNA and sulfur is present in the protein. So when they have taken the radioactive medium and they have added the phages or E. coli onto the medium, right? Then when this phage multiply here, it will take up the radioactive material which is present here. Here the phages will take up the radioactive phosphorus. Here the phages will take up the radioactive sulfur. So when this phosphorus will enter into the phage, where it will enter? It will enter into the DNA molecule which is present in the head region. And here sulfur will enter into the protein coat which is surrounding the genetic material. Now progeny phages become labeled. They got labeled, and then they have introduced or they have infected these phages. They have infected the bacteria using the phages, labeled phages. Now in the first case they have seen that the radioactivity is seen here inside the cell, because here the DNA is labeled and DNA is released into the bacterial cell. And here also, as the DNA will only be released, radioactive material was left outside the cell. Here radioactive material was inserted into the cell, whereas here radioactive material was left outside the cell. Now separation of phage goes from bacterial cell. The leftover protein coat of on the outer side of the bacterial cell is called as ghost. Okay, so then they have centrifuged and they have separated this ghost from the bacterial cell. Then they have seen that here there was no radioactivity, but here there is radioactivity. Here they have, in this case they have separated, no? The phage is here and the cell is here, bacterial cell is here. So they have seen where the radioactivity can be seen. They have seen in the, in case of the cell, where DNA has got labeled with the help of P32 radioactive material. And here when they have separated, they could see the radioactivity in the ghosts, where the sulfur is incorporated into the proteins present in the protein coat. So by this experiment it is proved that DNA is the actual genetic material, and it has got labeled by phosphorus P32, and that is why we could see the radioactivity here in this case. Next experiment is from evidence from transduction. Now, transduction, just now what we have discussed is nothing but the transduction. Here transduction is transfer of one genetic material from one bacterium to the another bacterium through phage. Okay, so here do not need physical contact like conjugation. We have seen conjugation also. In conjugation tube should be there, but here in transduction the physical contact is not required. And transduction is a transfer of genetic material through viruses. Okay, the virus can take up the genetic material from one bacteria and it can pass on to the another bacteria. That process is called as transduction. So same life cycle. After releasing of the DNA, it will the phage particles will be synthesized, and the phage particles by mistake they take up the bacterial DNA from the first bacterium, and after the lysis when they are released, they will infect the another bacteria, and it will release the genetic material which has been taken from the first bacteria, and this DNA will enter into the second DNA. This is the transduction. Now, evidence from ultraviolet light. So, as we have seen, nucleic acids absorb UV light at 260 nanometers. Maximum absorption is at 260 nanometers. And production of mutants, if we want to produce any mutants, we have to use the same range of UV light. And Hargobind Khurana, he has synthesized the gene of yeast having 77 nucleotides. And then American biochemists in Harvard University, they have synthesized a complex gene in rabbit which is having 650 nucleotides, and they are showing synthetic activities. So coming to the biochemical evidences, in biochemical evidences, we can see that these are the different organisms. This is the virus, T4 bacteriophage, HIV, E. coli. This is the bacteria. This is the yeast. These are the this is a prokaryotic organism. This is the eukaryotic, and lily is a plant, very big organism. Then amoeba, again smaller organism. Frog, bigger. Human, and one more bigger organism. But if you compare the genome or base pairs or genome length in this organism, you can, there is no relation to the size of the organism to the size of the genome or genetic material, or the complexity cannot be compared with the size of the organism. Even if the size of the organism is very small, amoeba, the number of genes can be more. Chargaff's rule, Chargaff has given rule that different bases are in equilibrium. In, like he said, always number of adenine is equal to number of thymine, and number of guanine is equal to number of cytosine in all the organisms. This was the conclusion given by the Chargaff. Actually, he has taken different samples from plants, animals, and different variety of organisms, and he has checked the base ratio, number of adenines, thymines, guanines, and cytosine, and then he could come to the conclusion that A is equal to T and G is equal to C. Indirect evidence. So always DNA was present in the nuclei of all the cells, and equal amount of DNA is present in all cells of an organism. If a cell is dividing, if an organism is dividing, okay, the amount of DNA is similar in all the cells of a particular organism. This also shows that maybe DNA is the genetic material, and amount of DNA is proportional to the ploidy of a cell. Okay, they have found that haploid cell is having half the amount of diploid cell, and nuclear division occurs only after DNA duplication. First, DNA should divide, DNA should replicate, and then nucleus will divide. And variation in diploid amount of DNA among different species. Among different species, the DNA amount is also changing, and DNA has same physical and chemical properties in all the organism. Whatever organism you take, if you take the DNA molecule, it is showing the same physical and chemical properties. Indefinite number of combinations are possible with four bases ATGC. As in the first slide, we have seen that scientists have thought uh, is the genetic material because they are made of 20 different amino acids. But here, in case of DNA, as there are only four bases, they could show more variation in the combinations of the sequence. Of all the macromolecules, DNA is metabolically more stable. Among all the biomolecules, DNA is more stable. In prokaryotes, DNA is not linked with the protein, still characteristics are inherited. As more this DNA and proteins are closely linked, people was they had thought, they had doubt about this DNA and protein. So in prokaryotes, as DNA is not linked with the proteins, even then it is showing inheritance. This is the structure of the DNA. Here, these are the general characters of DNA structure. It is made of nitrogen bases. There are two types: purines and pyrimidines. Purines are adenine and guanine. Pyrimidines and thymine and cytosine. Rosalind Franklin, she has worked on X-ray diffraction studies in order to show the DNA structure. These are Watson and Crick. They have built the DNA structure, and they got Nobel Prize in 1962 along with Morris Wilkins. This is the DNA replication. The strand is replicating. Next is RNA as a polymer, RNA as genetic material. Here they have in different viruses. Some of the viruses, RNA is acting as the genetic material. These are the viruses. They have having RNA as a genetic material. Here the scientists, Frankel, Conrad, and Singer, they have worked on these viruses, and they have proved that RNA is actual genetic material in these viruses. For this, they have taken the organism TMV, tobacco mosaic virus. They have what they did is they have taken two variants of TMV, and they have produced a hybrid by exchanging of RNA of one virus and the protein of another virus, and then they have constructed this hybrids, and then they have injected into the plant, and they have seen that the disease whatever was caused in the plant was due to the RNA molecule which was injected into the plant. It was not related to the protein which is actually covering the um, RNA. Which, coming to the summary, so genes are carrying all the information for transfer of characters from one generation to another generation. There is a central dogma. DNA is giving proteins. DNA by transcription, it is converted to RNA, pre-RNA. After processing, it will be converted into RNA, and RNA after translation converted to proteins, and DNA by replication and repair, it will be giving rise to another DNA molecule. This is the central dogma of biology. Thank you.